Hi everyone, welcome back to Sally's Take. If you've watched films such as Romeo plus Juliet, Moulin Rouge, The Great Gatsby, then you've watched half of Baz Luhrmann's filmography, which we will be ranking today. The reason why I picked him is because, well, he only has 5 films out so far, so I figure it's a good place to start. But also, I recently discovered that I like a few of his films before I even know that it was directed by the same person, so that's kind of interesting. The thing about Baz Luhrmann's style of directing is that he turns everything into a spectacle. So he has big, elaborate set designs with a clear aesthetic for each film, memorable costumes, and the acting is kind of extra. Even though his style is quite traditional and strays away from making things appear realistic and natural like most films do today, I find that it is actually quite timeless and sometimes even contemporary. So for the New Year's, I watched all of his films because I have nothing better to do, and now I'm going to rank it from worst to best. Australia strays away from Luhrmann's usual genre of film because it is more serious. That's why I think his style got a little lost in translation. The cinematography is not as memorable as his other films, however, I will give it credit for having an interesting premise. It's set in World War II and touches on racism towards Aboriginal people in Australia. But the film is way too long and I kind of lost focus. I thought it would end in an hour and a half, but it actually went on to 2 hours. There are still certain spectacle elements weaved into the film though, such as the Aboriginal songs and the song Somewhere Over the Rainbow having a significant connection to the characters. However, I feel like it could be cut shorter again, and the main couple fall in love kind of out of nowhere, and there could be more done to the cinematography. For The Great Gatsby, I have read the novel once before, but I don't remember much of it, so I don't really have a vendetta against the casting like many do. I'm not a super fan, and I don't analyze the book in high school, so I think I'm pretty chill about it. I think overall it encapsulates the lavish lifestyle of 1920s high society while briefly touching on the lower classes and the dark side of the American dream. It's interesting to also see Leonardo in Luhrmann's film again as Gatsby, which is very different from his role as Romeo when he was younger. I personally think that he did a good job as Gatsby, and this film also is an example of Luhrmann having the soundtrack to make a period film more contemporary, which I think is kind of his specialty. For example, having Beyonce singing Back to Black, Lana Del Rey's Young and Beautiful song, and $100 Bills by Jay-Z, which you would think doesn't work with the visuals, but it actually does. Overall, I think it's great, but not the most original out of his other films. In the beginning of Luhrmann's career, he put together 3 films known as the Red Curtain Trilogy, all of which made the top 3, and I deem it classic Luhrmann's style. When the film first came out, it was quite groundbreaking because it takes a classic old famous love story from William Shakespeare and puts it into a modern setting. Right off the bat, Baz Luhrmann familiarizes the story to contemporary audience by introducing the Montague and the Capulets as rival gangsters/rival business families. There are also tabloid news covering the family feud, which are like paparazzis nowadays, but the characters speak in the old original language. It sounds like a disaster waiting to happen, but out of all the new adaptations of Romeo and Juliet, this is actually kind of original and it kind of works out pretty well. I think a great deal of the success has to come from the casting, but the iconic costume, like when Romeo and Juliet first met at the ball, are still recognizable today. Like Jules from Euphoria wore it, and I can immediately tell that it's from Luhrmann's version of Romeo and Juliet. Moreover, the Christian symbolisms, the film's aesthetic, and cinematography is what puts the cherry on top and makes it accessible to younger audience and people who might not necessarily be into Shakespearean plays. I think it's a good way to do adaptations, however, I think it can do without the old language because it can kind of make it sound cringy. This film took me by surprise. The plot is not unheard of before. Like other famous dance movies, it's about breaking the traditional dancing style and dancing to the beat of your heart. And as basic as it sounds, I enjoyed the simplicity of it, along with the glistening ballroom aesthetics, the over-the-top costumes, the dance montages, etc. And I think it's the only couple in all of his films that actually took time to grow their relationship and did not fall in love at first sight or randomly be into each other. There is a sense of community in the ballroom academy, but also in Fran's family when they casually dance Spanish dances. I think there's a homely feeling to it, and that could be due to Luhrmann's mother, who is actually a ballroom dance teacher. So he may feel more connection towards the story than other of his film. This was also Luhrmann's first film, so I think it really showcases his skill that he can do a lot with a simple plot and setting. And number 1 has got to go to Moulin Rouge. I watched this film when I was young, and until now I still love it and don't find it cheesy or cringy. It is quintessential Luhrmann and probably the peak of his career. Again, I don't think his plot is super original, but it is the ride towards the end that makes it so memorable and captivating. It is a true spectacle. The whole film feels like a grand gesture. It is romantic, it is silly, stupid, but it can be deep at times as well. Not to mention the medley and mashup of iconic songs, the amazing dance number, beautiful 19,000 Paris cabaret setting, and costume and great chemistry between the main leads. I know it sounds like I'm being paid to promote this movie, but I just really like the movie. I think Luhrmann specialized in tragic love stories, and Moulin Rouge is where he leans into it the most. It is a film that serenades love with grand ballads, but it also does not take itself too seriously, which is what makes a story set in old times become contemporary. The set design and costumes are memorable and unique, which is why I think it hones in Luhrmann's spectacle style that he is known and praised for. We watch films as a reflection of reality, but sometimes we watch it to escape from reality. There is something so satisfying about watching a film that does not shy away from the fact that it is entertainment and rather embrace it. Luhrmann said in one of his interviews that he gravitates towards the old style of filmmaking. When people watch his films, they already know the ending. They already know that it is all a spectacle. But instead of making an unpredictable plot or make it look natural or realistic, he challenges and invents way to get to that predictable ending and to make it as spectacular of a spectacle as possible. I think that's why his films appeals and works throughout the generation. Anyways, do you agree with my rankings? Are you excited for Luhrmann's new films that's about Elvis? If you have any other directors' films you want me to rank, then please leave suggestions down below in the comments. And thanks for watching again, and I hope to see you soon.